13, September 1942, the Battle of Stalingrad.
Then targeted the rest of the city, turning much of it into rubble. German forces entered the city with their Axis allies and engaged in house-to-house urban warfare. The two sides were so close that they could throw back a grenade before it exploded. Every building and street was fought for. After 3 months of fighting, the Germans were able to capture 90% of the city. Offenses with Georgy Zhukov, and he planned a counter-offensive against the Germans.
3rd, 1942 to February 2nd, 1943. As the Germans advanced towards Stalingrad in the summer of 1942, the war came to the locals of the city, and evacuation was slow to the speed of the Wehrmacht's advancement. Because the city bore Stalin's name, it was important for the morale of the Soviet forces to hold it. The desperation for Soviet resistance to the German advance was clear. Work frantically continued in the weapon factories. T-34 tanks could be seen rushed into battle, unpainted, and sometimes lacking gun sights. Men not already in the Red Army were formed into militia and sent into battle, sometimes without proper training and with high casualties. Women and children dug trenches and built protective fortifications, but would all in gun crews and as scouts and snipers. On the 12th of September, the first German troops moved into the city. They chose to attack straight into the urban area and soon found themselves in brutal close-quarters house-to-house battles. The Soviets established frontline positions as close as possible to the German lines, which was the safest place for German air and artillery attacks. Top General Georgy Zhukov to supervise the whole.
I can't keep it. I was going to demolish it if you want it. So we've been kind of babysitting it for the last couple of years. It's been in our display at the Brickmania.
Army Group South to secure both the Volga and the Caucasus. The plan would be called Case Blue and was meant to be a second blitzkrieg to break the front. It called for the assembling of 1.3,500,000 aircraft. The men that made up Army Group South were split into two detachments. Army Group A, which would swing around the city of Stalingrad and secure the oil field of Baku, and then converge onto Stalingrad from the south, while Army Group B, which was made up of the German 6th, 4th Panzer Army and Romanian and Italian allies, would march directly towards Stalingrad, the major Soviet industrial city. The Soviets had other plans. The oil fields of Nikop and Elista, which were on the way to Baku, were both set aflame by the Red Army. Roswell, also en route to Baku, raided by the German Air Force, or Luftwaffe, instead of being captured. Fierce Russian resistance.
The Battle of Stalingrad is known as one of the most pivotal actions of World War II. It was also the deadliest battle in the history of warfare.
To pick the most important battle of the Second World War, Stalingrad stands at the top.
More than 1 million lives were lost in 7 months of unrelenting fighting, and the eventual German defeat Hitler's dream of commanding a global empire.
Everybody thought that's the beginning of the end. It sent shockwaves through Germany.
For decades after the war, the battle was seen as a defining victory for a cunning Joseph Stalin, whose military strategy stalled the relentless German advance. But now, newly released from behind the Iron Curtain, allowing a more details of the fighting, and revealing a very different picture of the battle that changed the course of history. Here at the famed Citadel Military College in South Carolina, retired U.S. Army Colonel and military historian David Glantz has made a career out of studying the war on the East. Founders of the communist movement, including Leon Trotsky, were Jewish. Wanted the country destroyed at all costs.
Adolf Hitler, one of the most studied men in history, obviously one of the most evil. His reasoning was that the fundamental nature of human struggle was a struggle between the races. And in line with this, the Soviet Union represented the combined evils of Bolshevism and Judaism, and was the greatest threat to the Aryan race.
Stalin, on the other hand, wanted to keep both his country and his position of unlimited power.
Stalin was the tyrant, like Hitler. He was the
Stalin's pact was a calculated risk, an attempt to buy himself some time. In 1939, the Soviet military was no match for Germany's.
We saw more and more German units move to the Romanian-Russian border along the Black Sea.